Coach Wiggins has been generous enough. He listened to the last few minutes of that discussion. He was laughing at you guys as he should have. But we are now joined by Holmon Wiggins, the offensive coordinator at Texas A&M. He was the receivers coach last year, working directly with KC Concepcion. Coach, first and foremost, thanks for joining us. Gig 'em as always, and howdy. Shout out to Brad for helping set this all up. So appreciate you joining us here to tell us a little bit about the player and the person the Browns are getting in their first-round pick, KC Concepcion.
Yes, appreciate you guys for having me. Good morning.
What are we getting? Well, how good is this kid? He looks phenomenal on tape, but you know him as well as anyone.
He's a play waiting to happen, right? When you talk about lightning in the bottle, that's what KC is, right? A guy that averaged, 18 yards, a punt return, should have had multiple, basically double-digit touchdowns, but, a guy that when you put the ball in his hands, he can make the play. He can play outside, play inside, vertical stretch guy, can find, zones, windows in the zones, really good play strength, unbelievable separator. He was just a phenomenal guy that I enjoyed coaching, but also we just tried to find multiple ways to get the ball in his hands because we knew the impact that he could have on a game at any given time, man. So love the person, but also the player. And that was the one thing that you talk about when you're recruiting a kid out of the portal. You never know kind of what kind of kid he's going to be, but he done a great job of coming and being an ambassador of the program with his work ethic and did the right things on and off the field.
There's a misconception sometimes when you get a receiver who is, maybe around the 6 foot area, not really a big 6'3", 6'4" guy, that they can only be a gadget guy. Talk to us about what his ability is. Like you said you can play inside, you can play outside. Can you dispel the notion that he's just going to be running around here getting reverses?
Well, the one thing is he showed how durable he was in, arguably one of the toughest conferences in the country in the SEC. And all he did was put that on display kind of every week. He was a guy that played, multiple spots. You even go back to his days at NC State. He played some running back, so that can show you, just the toughness that, comes with this kid. We were able to utilize his football intelligence because he was smart enough to pick up the playbook. We can play him outside. We can play him inside. So there's some position flex with a guy like that. But also he can play against bigger corners and create the separation needed, especially at that level on Sundays.
Coach, the one criticism of him coming into the draft was the drops. That was really the thing we were hearing because we were talking about him a lot leading up to the draft because he was one of the guys that we thought the Browns would consider. What can you tell us about the one negative that's been pointed out about his game?
I think that was probably the one negative, right? And it's something that he definitely can fix. And he's a guy that, wants to be as good as he can be. He strives for excellence, and he's also a perfectionist. So when we would talk about those things and how to address them, the impressive thing about the kid was you saw him on the jugs. He started practicing without gloves, trying to make sure his hand placement was in the right spot. So he's a guy that has that intrinsic motivation. Of course, I think he's going to do a great job of being able to fix some of the weaknesses kind of in his game. And there's a couple other things that he'll need to kind of add, especially when you talk about, playing at that level. But he's a guy that's going to sit there, take what you're trying to sit there and tell him to do, listen, learn, and apply it to his game going forward.
There's obviously going to be opportunity for him here in Cleveland. I don't know how familiar you are with the Browns roster, but that was one of their big areas of need, that and offensive tackle. Have you had conversations with the young man about what his expectations are for his rookie season in the NFL? Is he a guy this is outwardly saying, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fight and win a starting job? What are his expectations?
Yeah, it's funny you talk about the roster because, of course, I was at Alabama before I got to Texas A&M. So I had, Jerry Jeudy his last year in 2019. Of course, I had Isaiah Bond for a couple years as well. But, when you talk about KC, he's a guy that trusts himself and trusts his ability. So there's no doubt that he don't try to set those. What we try to do is just strive for excellence every day. And I think he has the right tools. He has the right makeup to end up basically giving that roster
ability as a returner. We go back and obviously we got one of the best to ever do it in Josh Cribbs, but one of the things that the Cleveland Browns have always been lacking since Cribbs, and I would probably say go back to Travis Benjamin, we have not had a guy that can really, get upfield and turn something into a big play. How was it? How dynamic is he in terms of his punt return ability? And does he have I believe some people have a God-given ability just to see the field. Is he one of those special guys that just has a knack for understanding the way the plays develop?
I think so, right? When you sit there and you think about it, it's those guys that kind of have those instincts that, just are God-given.
Coach, he's clearly a player. What kind of young man is he?
Phenomenal young man. It's funny you ask, because I just wound up texting his mom and his dad, and just thank them for allowing me to be a part of this young man's journey. I think he's done a phenomenal job as a player, but everybody that gets the chance to kind of know him, I call him a thermostat guy, right? Because when he steps in a room, he actually brings, right, the energy and actually sits there and he can kind of set the tone for anything. And I think a lot of people gravitate to him, and that was one of the biggest things that we found out on our team. From him cooking for his teammates, to him kind of helping them recruiting, to him, going to elementaries and, speaking to young kids and, just that social responsibility. I think you have a guy that has all the right things, the character, the discipline, the accountability. I think he's going to be a great pillar in that Cleveland community.
Coach, you mentioned that you were with Alabama. I don't know, I'm not sure how long these guys were there, to be totally honest, but the Browns drafted 2 Alabama guys, Brailsford, the center, and Justin Jefferson. Not going to lie, we would like to have the other Justin Jefferson, but a linebacker. What do you think of those guys? Plus, give us your thoughts on this kid the Browns drafted in the 6th round, the quarterback from Arkansas, because he's obviously a freak athlete.
Okay, so I'll start with the quarterback from Arkansas, because I still have nightmares, of us sitting there watching this dude run all around us. But he's a guy that is big, athletic. Of course, has the build, the frame, really good arm strength. I think he does a phenomenal job of being able to extend plays and stretch those plays. But he gave me nightmares for the last 2 years, and I'm not even coaching on the defensive side. I'm just aware, and I would be the guy complaining about why the hell we can't tackle this guy. But so I think being able to get the kind of value that they got in a 6th round draft pick in Taylor Green was really good for the Browns. The Brailsford kid, he actually came after I was there, so I know he was a part of that crew that was at Washington that wound up kind of going there. And I think anybody there, especially with what they've done historically on the offensive line at Alabama, and to be a captain, I think he's done a good job of going there and making his impression felt. But the Justin Jefferson kid was a kid that we got out of junior college. And I know, got a chance to kind of, spend time with his mom, see what kind of kid he is, really good character kid. But, he is an explosive, athletic dude that's sideline to sideline, and he packs a punch. So I think, those people in Cleveland are going to be excited about what he brings to the table.
All right, last serious question, and then Mike's got a silly question for you. I'm a Bengals fan, as everybody here knows. They're going to roll their eyes, but we've gone D-line from Texas A&M 2 years in a row. I'm hearing good things about Cassius Howell. How do you think he's going to fit in Cincinnati?
I think Cassius is going to fit in pretty well, right? And I think that he is a Midwest guy, kind of by the way of where he grew up. But, you talk about a guy that sets the edge, brings the intensity every day, is a matchup nightmare for those guys that are trying to block him on an island. A guy that, can counter, can play with power, can play with athleticism. He was a guy that I loved enjoying watching the last couple years, and just seeing him mature and become the player that he is, only to become the SEC Player of the Year. So I think they found a stud in him, and it's great that he gets a chance to kind of pair it back up with Shamar Stewart, a guy that you guys drafted a year ago.
Yep. Coach, first off, just want to say thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, Coach.
We really, really
Great
appreciate
insight.
this.
Thank you.
I was in Texas, covering Texas A&M from 2018 to 2022, so we just kind of missed paths there. Coach Elko knows me as the other kid from Jersey, the only other Jersey person that was down in College Station.
It feels like he's bringing a bunch of guys from Jersey now since you left, too. So, we're getting that Northeast connection.
I've been replaced. But, Coach, I got to ask just before I let you go, are you a Torchies or a Fuego guy?
Oh. I'm a Torchies guy, right? I went to school in New Mexico at the University of New Mexico, so that queso that they have, the good mix, it's kind of hard to beat with the green chili inside. So that's one of my staples and one of my go-tos.
So speaking of where you played in Mexico, I saw you hold their record for punt return yards in a single season. If it was you and KC side by side, and you needed a punt return touchdown, you in your prime versus KC right now, Who's got a better chance of taking over the house coach?
No chance. I'm picking KC all day, man. You know, shoot, the smart ones. There's this saying that real recognize real, and he's one of the realest ones. So I'm giving it to him.
Coach, we really
Thank you,
appreciate
Coach.
the time.
Appreciate
Thank
it,
you
man.
so
Thanks.
much, and best of luck down in College Station this year.
Yeah.
All right,
Holmon
thank you
Wiggins.
guys. Appreciate it. Y'all have a good one.